Yeah, welcome to our next episode of SDV Coffee Talk. Today, with a small agenda change, I'm Sarah and Ansgar cannot join, unfortunately, our session due to some personal issues. Therefore, Florian, Sergey, me will be here in the session. Um, yeah, just a disclaimer from my side. I mean, everything what I say here is of my own opinion, has nothing to do with any other um, to my employer or any other institution I'm affiliated. Um, yeah. Should we start?
Yeah.
Let's
Go
do it.
ahead. Yeah, I mean, probably we could just start with the recent conference. I mean, yesterday, Monday and Tuesday, Sergey and I were on the SDV Europe in Berlin. It was quite interesting, this conference. I mean, a lot of people, a lot of familiar faces I met, and it was really very enjoyable for me, actually. I don't know what you think, Sergey. I mean, you were one of the partners, right, of the conference? I mean,
Yeah, we were there with one of the presentations, and we also delivered the demo. So yeah, we were officially presented there, and I fully agree with you, Fatih. And the atmosphere, the energy, and very great way to share opinions and discuss some real challenges and make honest conversations. That's what I felt throughout this couple of days.
So I attended the SDV Europe in Frankfurt, which was a different event. So this is just a hint towards the event organizers to synchronize a little bit on the titles, because people, say like, "Oh, I'm going SDV Europe, I'll be there," and then it turns out I will not be there because I'm at a different SDV Europe. But I've been at
was it the
SDV.
same organizer, actually? Was the
No,
same
it was
organizer?
different
Ah, was it
organizers, and
different?
I
Okay,
talked
okay.
with both organizers, and they didn't really know about it about each
Okay.
other. So I was the
Okay.
first one to bring it to them. But I was also attending the SDV USA here in Ann Arbor, and I think both the conferences I attended, it was a really good group there, very very focused, very very strong understanding around the whole SDV thing. So this is what I really like with those events, and it was the same already last year. My first slide was when I was presenting was what is an SDV? What is SDV? And just kidding. Everybody in the room knows what we're talking about, and this is what I really liked at those events. That there is no like basics, so we can really go into advanced talks with the audience. So this was really great, and it was also great to meet Sergey down in Frankfurt, even though it was just for for a coffee and a train ride.
Yes, that's
Okay.
it. Was fantastic coincidence, but all coincidences are not just coincidences.
Oh dear, that's going
But
deep.
Florian, you gave also a talk there, right? I mean, you were invited
Yes,
to give a talk.
I was partnering up with JAMA this time, and we were talking about the end-to-end traceability and the influences on like smart impact analysis and stuff like this onto things towards the SDV. Also, interesting to mention that this conference, at least the Frankfurt version, was co-hosted with a cybersecurity conference, and
Okay.
I really see cybersecurity taking off a lot this year, which is great, and it's extremely important. So it's good to see. I don't know, was the Berlin conference also with some focus on cybersecurity?
Somehow, yes.
I mean, there were two rooms actually. Yeah, there were two rooms actually. One was pure STV conference, and the second room was the SEC STV about the security. I was first confused because I didn't know actually where to go, and then later I realized that I have to go to this STV. Actually, I registered for the STV one only, and but met also a lot of people from the SEC STV. Actually, it was quite interesting also to talk to them.
Yeah, what was cool in Frankfurt, actually, they brought a car into the hotel lobby, and they actually
Oh,
did
really?
a relay attack,
Okay.
live demonstration on the car.
Okay.
That was pretty cool. I wish it would have been an EV. That would be better for the air quality, but so they basically hacked into the car and drove it out of the lobby without the key present. And that was pretty cool presentation.
Yeah,
Cool.
impressive.
Cool.
Guys, what I'm thinking about is since we attended two different conferences with the same name, maybe it might be quite relevant and interesting to our audience to hear about the main trends which were discussed there and try to share. Is it something really same or slightly different? But let's bring that together.
Yeah, and I think it was actually fairly similar. So I would be surprised if we had like super different topics. But yes, I agree. And as we just talked about in the a couple of minutes before we went live, this is the last talk for 2024. 2024 was actually a very interesting year. I spent a lot of time at conferences, 18 of them. And so
18.
18,
Wow.
yes,
Okay.
18.
Wow.
Some of them were shorter or online, but I in person visited at least 10 of them. And so there's a couple of trends you see in 2024 that are slightly, going in different directions. One of them we actually talked about with Augustine last month, right? So there's a lot of going towards partnership rather than like brute force vertical integration. And actually, Sergey, maybe you can jump on that real quick, because I think that's where you live.
Well, yes, but maybe I can jump in a little bit later. And if you try to outline the trends you see and the things which were discussed throughout the conference you visited, then we, together with Fatih, add a few other things which might be in addition to that. And yeah, then we can discuss some of the trends which are specific.
Of course. Yeah, to add a couple more things I've seen. I mean, there's much more involvement of silicon companies right now at a very high level of system development, which is super interesting, because in the past it was mainly like, okay, I buy a certain chip and I have my low-level software developers, they make that thing go. Now we see silicon developers or silicon designers at the table really for vehicle level decisions, which is super interesting. And then, of course, very present the emergence of AI in each and every area. Right. Not always in the best way, but in a lot of areas we see like real cool progress and real fast. It's extremely fast. I mean, you talk with somebody, say, I think you should do it this or that way, and then a couple of weeks later they just did that, right? Implemented that. So the implementation speed is crazy fast right now. But in that context, what I actually internal in our company, what we discuss is like, hey, we actually have to, be careful not to send just each and everything into the internet / OpenAI, because there are NDAs in place and so on. So we didn't, but at one point we were just starting to think, it's like, we should probably not use ChatGPT for each and everything. That's one thing. And the second thing is we should probably ask our employees, and every company should ask the employees not to send, proprietary data into ChatGPT to get like test cases written or something like, or even source code. So I've worked with a lot of companies actually starting with, and that's a tongue breaker, an LLM, so a local large language model. And I did the same for our company. It only takes a few minutes to set it up, and then you stay local and you keep your confidential stuff. So I think this is something you will hear me saying a lot over the next year or so. So it's like, hey guys, don't give OpenAI all your requirements documentation.
Yeah. This one is definitely a trend that, of course, AI is jumping into the car. I would say it's not even coming, but jumping into it. And the LLM at the edge, I think it's something interesting in particular. So having no requirement for constant and permanent connectivity to the internet, and having some smartness, intelligence, ability to learn, ability to adapt, to adjust, to personalize. This is something which is simply here with what we see in terms of AI today. It's no longer a dream. It's no longer something which is coming in the next 20 years. It's actually here. Yes, it takes some time to adopt it and start using. And of course, for in-vehicle use cases, there's a lot of safety and security considerations. But yeah, it's really time to start, or to actually to continue this development. Yeah.
Sergey, you had this presentation of Soda V. Actually, I think it was first time you presented in such a big round, I guess, right? In the conference. I mean, you also talked about AI. Actually, I mean, how does it work? I mean, is it a local running AI, or how do you deal with if a customer uses, for example, your tool? How is it dealt?
So the tool usage is actually slightly different. So it has less, let's say, safety-related concerns. But I fully agree with Florian in terms of the security and privacy and data protection concerns around it. The way we design that is actually even more flexible. So we do not dictate exact AI provider to be used. So it can be any AI provider such as OpenAI or Microsoft or Claude, which is available, because we really see that some of the customers prefer these implementations within their enterprise agreements, and you have to really respect their preference here. At the same time, another option is the local LLM, which Florian also correctly mentioned, which is of course the most secure. But at the same time, it's always the balance between what you can achieve in a local implementation and what you would like to achieve with some connectivity with, let's say, upgrades which are available for you throughout the more general implementation. But yeah, for us, really, we work with OpenAI. This is where we started. We work with Microsoft as well, and we have on-premise LLM implementation. These are the options which we can offer to our customers, depending on their size, really, and preference. Yes, it can be any of this.
Coming back to the conference, actually, I mean, how was the response actually from the participants about this presentation you did? I mean, the demo, was it? I mean,
look, I think there was a very good combination, really, because in the beginning I was able to really stress the importance of some changes which we had as a part of my presentation.
But this was quite, but this was quite shocking to many people, I think. I mean, how your presentation was built was quite shocking, I think, because you brought very sharp, statements.
For those who were not able to attend that, can you quote?
I really wanted to provoke the conversation, because in my opinion, we're at the moment where we have three choices. We don't do anything. We do nothing. So that's always a choice. Then we apply some patches, just stickers over everywhere. And then we make a radical change. And with the situation where the development cycle and the release cycle of a vehicle model today, already with the leaders, is something around 1.5 years, and actually the new norm is going to be 1 year. And with legacy and traditional automakers, it's still around 3, 4, 5 years. I mean, if we compare that with the speed of a car, that would mean something like 90 kilometers per hour to 240. So that's the real difference. And if you really think, basically, you drive on a highway and you're driving 90 and somebody's driving 240, that's the difference, really. So, I mean, that's exactly what I was showing. I was really giving these visual examples. And then we said, okay, guys, if we don't do anything, then possibly we don't have too much time. And there are quite sharp opinions, including Mr. Musk on that, who is saying that many traditional automakers are actually not going to make it. So basically what I said is, okay, if we take this as the opinion, then 1-2 years, we do nothing, we are in trouble. Then another way is to apply patches. Then possibly we have a little bit longer time before it can
be trouble.
Before we are in trouble, but we are still getting there, because again, it's all about the difference between the speed you're running and the speed your competitors are running, right? So if you're still not at that speed, you're always kind of behind, and that's just the reality. So we'll win a little bit more time and then have a little bit longer life, but we are still in trouble. And then the only viable way is actually to apply changes right now. And it's quite radical even to say that, but it's needed right now. And then actually there is no guarantee. It's fair chances to stay competitive. It's not something which, okay, we applied some changes, now we're happy. No, it's a new world where you still have to do a lot in order to be competitive. So that's the story I was given in the beginning. And then we also discussed the optimization of the processes. And one of the key ideas I mentioned there is that you cannot make a software-defined vehicle if you do not operate with a software-driven process. So if you don't make your product with a software mindset and software-driven processes, whatever you do, it can look like, or you can say it's a software-defined vehicle, but it actually is not. This was another thing. And then lastly, it was the point around, if we need to optimize, the best way to look at the whole kind of process chain to kind of end-to-end process rather than trying to optimize here and there. And in order to do that, you really start with the idea, then you analyze how you go through your systems, like vehicle level engineering and requirements process, going down to the systems world and what you do there. Then finally you go to the software and software implementation, and up through the validation cycles from the low level software world to the systems world, and then up to the vehicle world. So that's the real kind of end-to-end process from idea to a certified product. And that's actually what we need to optimize. And that's exactly what we are optimizing as a part of our tool, what we demonstrated. After just explaining the ideas first, the demonstration of a product which actually can do that with a lot of AI for automation and many elements being just simplified and improved to the level where it can be done quicker and easier, literally in minutes rather than days and months. Yeah, that was a very good, I would say, effect, and many people really were super curious about what we do now, and we had fantastic 2 days full of conversations about it.
Well, sounds really good. I mean, but I think in this whole conversation, I mean, there is also one workshop in the second day. I mean, the second day of the conference was mainly workshops, and you could go from one place to another. I mean, you had just half an hour. The group was mixed, and there were different topics actually. And one of the stations was SDV and supply chain. This was my favorite actually. You know.
Yes.
I mean, this was led by a professor from America. He came from Carnegie Mellon, I think.
Yes.
Exactly.
Was it Phil?
It was, no, his name was Hassan. I forgot his last name. But
Hassan Yassar.
Yeah, exactly. He was.
I have his card in front of me.
Yeah, he's also teaching software engineering at the university, and also
I
automotive specific and so on. And this was really interesting for me. I mean, because I see big problems in the current supply chain, the classical supply chain, where you have contracts with suppliers and they deliver something after a while. This will be a problem in SDV actually. I mean, if this stays like that, this will be a problem, because in the SDV, I defined in this workshop, SDV is keeping your car always fresh. You know, that means you can update 24/7 your software actually. But if you have suppliers, they just deliver it every 2 weeks or just once a month or so. This will not work. I mean, because the communication is not on eye level. The OEM just looks on the supplier and says deliver. You know, I mean, this will not work in my opinion. It must be more on eye level and like a partnership. You know, otherwise it will not work.
Yeah, I have a bunch of opinions for that. So first, yes, of course, you're right, and it needs to be brought back together. There are a couple of really cool ideas out in the industry how you can actually do that. For example, to get people basically like a digital twin, and you have the suppliers working in the digital twin, but they work in the same digital twin. So like this, you don't actually have to open source your code, but you can still, Conti can still test against the latest code from Bosch, even though they are not integrated yet. And then the next thought is like the integration is the biggest challenge, right? It's not the challenge is not to write the code. The challenge is to integrate it together. And it's getting actually more interesting now that we are starting to integrate different functionalities into the same hardware, right? So you might have in one scenario, you might have one supplier for the hardware and 3 suppliers for the software, and they all have to merge together. And they have to actually provide one product. So there's a lot to figure out in the industry how this can work. As I say, digital twin is something that can help.
Okay. But wouldn't it help if you have, for example, a single platform where the supplier and the OEM works together for a CI/CD platform? I mean that the integration is done seamless, so to say. You know, I mean, not a big bang integration that you get a chunk of software you integrate and it doesn't work. If it's, in my opinion, it must be somehow integrated seamless in the CI/CD.
100%, 100%, and that's exactly what I meant when I said that. So you have your digital twin, which is continuously integrating all the changes that go in. The problem you have is that there are contractual limitations and also traditional limitations that you cannot send over the source code to the OEM, and the
Yeah,
source
yeah,
code
yeah,
shares it with all the other suppliers,
Yes,
right? And
yes.
that's why I say, like, hey, okay, black box it, but continuously integrate it, and give all the suppliers the option to test in the integration. Because, you know, in the last years, it was always like, oh, vertical integration and so on, and the OEM is the integrator. Well, it turns out that doesn't work very well, because
Yes.
the software is developed by the suppliers. So they have to be around when integration happens.
But shouldn't this IP's issues, I mean, intellectual property of code, should this not change in SDV? In my opinion, it should change. How it is implemented at the moment, this is my code, I give you only the binary, does not work.
You got me on board with that, but there are like 100-year-long contracts signed in the 1930s. They're running for another 6 years. So
yeah, probably. I mean,
So
because
it's a
principle,
mindset thing too, Fatih. So
yeah,
when I worked in Silicon Valley, people actually purposely open their code to everybody, because they say the more people look at my code, the better it is in quality in the end. There's not this secretive, but the classic automotive industry is very, very secretive, and they're all afraid of stealing IP and something like this. So, and that's written on paper, so they cannot just change it if they wanted to, right?
Yeah,
that's why my idea is more like, okay, let's find a way how to cope with that. We will not be able to change it right now. Over time, maybe. And I agree with you, it should be changed, but it can't be changed immediately.
Yeah, I think Florian is raising a great point, that we need to start with something, and just the fact that we can collaborate, and that was actually one of also the biggest points and biggest topics which were as a shared understanding around the conference we attended. So as long as we can collaborate, integrate early and continuously, that's already a great first step forward. And then possibly this mindset thing around, okay, what I'm actually losing if I open this kind of code, because it's close to the interface, and then it's more clear how it's actually working. So it can be starting with something very technical, rather than some, deep logic, business logic about some cool user experience features or anything. So actually, some code definitely. I mean, even if we look into the car, a few functionalities there. It's not a rocket science, and
no, exactly.
You hide. I mean, it's just some basic things.
It's
really.
just labor. It's literally. I was thinking. Sorry, I was thinking exactly the same while you were talking. It's like it's labor. It's not really intellectual stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
I will be
It's
happy.
not rocket science. It's not rocket science.
Exactly.
It's not rocket science. Yeah.
We should be thankful if somebody comes and is going to contribute to that, because
exactly. Yes.
Fatih, in that context, I just have to add this little anecdote. So we had a meeting with SpaceX a few years ago, and they actually told us that Tesla stuff is more complicated than what they do. So it's not rocket science; it's harder than rocket science.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Okay. Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, this is really a fun fact.
Rocket science has one. Now you're side swiping a little bit, but rocket science has one advantage. You know exactly who is flying your rocket and where and what is there.
Exactly.
Yeah. With automotive, some dude from Texas is taking your car and is like racing it through the countryside. You don't know, right? That's just an anecdote on the side. So it's our stuff is more complicated than rocket.
But I think in this SDV context, we need also continuous contribution. I mean, this is. I mean, software is continuously. Continuous contribution means if we have no intellectual property problems, everybody contributes to the same repo, or the repos are available for everybody. You could, for example, fix the bug each I created. I mean, there is because we are from different companies. I mean,
when
we're
you talk to suppliers, there's a different angle of a problem here too, because they might actually work with different OEMs, and they sell the same product to different OEMs, or at least some parts of the sources. So there's in that case, it's like, in which repo do you put it? Do you put it in the Volkswagen repo or in the BMW repo?
But why OEMs cannot work together? Yeah, but why OEMs cannot work together? I mean, on the non-differentiating part of the software, for example, I mean, you have brakes. Imagine a brake. Brake is brake. Volkswagen has the same brakes than the other, I don't know, whatever, Tesla or whatever. I mean, the functionality is the same. You have some signals and some brake is done.
I mean, I think there's a lot of legacy in that. You're right from the technical point of view. There's no real large reason why the Volkswagen brake cannot be on a Mercedes.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, or on the
Tesla. To an extent, it probably is.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
through Brembo or Bosch or whoever provides the brake system. But I think Sergey is smiling because I think some of the stuff Soda is doing is pushing in that direction, right?
I mean, it's just like something very pleasant to my ears, just because we feel exactly this way, and certain things they're just there, so they are available, and it's no big difference. What is the company who developed that? If multiple customers are using that and contributes to that, this is the way forward, and I'm sure we are getting there, because now we are at the point where simply all inefficiencies in the processes and all waste of time on these things, they are no longer going to be available. We won't have this luxury anymore. That's my personal belief, and I think it is going to happen. So we simply will have to come to that eventually. The question is how fast. Well, we'll see.
So
But,
I have another little
yeah.
Tesla story
Okay.
because people like those. At one point we brought everybody together, and this is the same thing, just on a much smaller scale. We brought everybody together who was involved in test engineering, and it turned out that we had 9 different people working on the same Python script to parse CAN DBCs.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And this is exactly it, right? So you
Mhm.
we basically wasted 8 people's time because it was literally the same thing in the end. Even, I mean, you could probably put the code on top of each other, and it is probably the same code even. And this is exactly going in the same direction, right? So, and picking up Sergey's words here is like, hey, let's focus on the actual, on the cool stuff, on the important stuff. Let's not just, spend all our time to do the stuff that is the same and fairly straightforward anyway. So it's basically like a commodity, right? So you should just grab. It's the same when I work on something and I develop a tool for Linux, right? I'm not rewriting Linux. There's other people doing that, right? So I'm just putting my app on top of it. And that is my personal touch, right? And this is what the OEMs can do.
Yes, and at the same time, this commodity, as you were saying, can be quite complicated, quite kind of advanced. So, but still, what's the point to do it again and again and again?
Yeah, and your brand is not being set aside from the other brand by the low level.
Exactly.
Difference.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes, exactly. But how was actually dealt in Tesla with external, supplier? Were there software delivered by externals?
Yes, not very many. I mean, in the beginning, most people forgot about that, but original Model S was having a lot of supplied parts. And they were actually off-the-shelf supplied because we were such a small company. They didn't actually offer us custom parts. So most people don't know, but the original Model S actually was produced with a Land Rover steering, for example, because it was roughly the right weight. Yes, and Bosch ZF basically said, like, you can use that one if you want, but you can change some parameters, but we will not develop you a new steering system for you 100 cars, and then you're basically bankrupt anyway, right? By now, this changed a little bit, but over time, they started to in-house a lot of things, but during my tenure, it was still the brakes and the steering coming from suppliers. And the way we integrated that is that we had an integration engineer on our side who was working directly with the teams over there. And he was actually working in the CI system. So whenever ZF Bosch created a new hex file, they gave it to that integration engineer, but much higher contribution rate than every 2 weeks. And then that person actually handled like the bridge into our CI system and into our repository. It was a smart move that person was actually hired from Bosch, so that he knew everybody on the other side. And if I remember that correctly, I think Bosch actually split out a special Tesla team at one point because they went so different pace than the regular development. So, but I think they learned a lot out of that. So in the end, yes, we had them all contributing to our repo, but not directly. There was a gatekeeper in the middle. But that's not a technical reason. That is just a contractual reason.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, these kind of things were also in Tesla. I mean, contractual problems, IP problems were also there. I expected at least that this problem would not exist.
Well, I think that's more from the supplier side. When you look into the Tesla things, like let's not talk about suppliers, but you technically have different teams supplying different features and functionalities within Tesla, and that's all open source. So me as a test and validation manager, I can look into the code of the drive inverter, I can look into the code of the body controller, I can look into the code of the UI system. If I'm capable to interpret all of that stuff is a different question. But especially for test engineering, that's the thing you want, right? So you want to be able to figure it out. You want to be able to go through the code. And it's not locked down as like, hey, you're the test engineer for body control, so you're not getting any information about the BMS, right? Because maybe there is an interaction at one point, and you don't want to be restricted to figure that one out.
Okay.
Guys, since I think we outlined some interesting vision for the future, right, going forward. So we said that there are certain features which absolutely have to be shared in the development, ideally, and at the same time, we've got some features which might be custom and proprietary, and that's because they form some commercial secret or know-how or just a cool way to do the thing. So, should we discuss how we actually can get there? So
I'm just going through the comments. There's one question. I think this is regarding you, Sergey. I think
so. Yes.
You were talking. You were talking about Soda V. I think.
Yes.
John is asking for that.
John, thank you very much for your question. The tool is called Soda V, and if you browse the website soda.auto, you will definitely find one there. But I'll respond to your comment with a link straight after our meeting.
Yeah, there is a second question. I mean, Alexander is asking for our vision in 2025. What will be the biggest challenge actually OEMs will face? I think I guess these are the classical OEMs. I mean, we know. I guess.
I think you can split that into two. You have geopolitical challenges, which I don't want to talk about right now. But we also have technical challenges, and not actually technology technical, but internal, like organizational technical challenges. And we see a lot of peddling going on, and they're like going in each and every direction, trying to figure out what's the right way in different approaches, right? So you see what's happening with Volkswagen Rivian, for example, and you see Ford with the Model E division, different approaches. But in the end, almost every car maker currently is trying to reinvent themselves internally with a little bit of a different approach. I personally haven't seen a lot happening in the Japanese world. Also haven't spent a lot of time with them, but I'd be curious what's going on over there as well. But in general, in one word, they have to learn software.
Yeah. So what is your opinion on that? I mean,
I would add to that. Well, what I think is happening and is going to happen is some budgets are not going to be infinite anymore. So they're going to be actually less. At the same time, the challenges are becoming real. So it's not something, again, you can just adjust here and there. Yeah. So as Florian correctly said and called it, the OEMs have to really reinvent themselves. And the question for me, how do they do that? So this is the real challenge, basically, which is, I mean, if you understand what you need to execute, you can execute it, whatever that is, right? It's still kind of enough time and enough skills, etc. But actually, the key question is how to reinvent, what to reinvent to make competitive with this circumstances. So no infinite budgets and the real changes which has to happen. And this is the opportunity. At the same time, this is a huge challenge for them.
But do you mean that 2025 is a key year for the OEMs to really swap, or or will it take, or should
I think you have to set the direction now.
Okay.
So if you
latest,
exactly. If you don't use 2025 to set the ship in the right direction, you might miss the port.
Okay. Okay. I agree. This is definitely. There is another comment at testing. You're right. Not only at Tesla. I think this was regarding your comment with having the same script 8 times or so, I guess. I mean, he's hiding. He's hiding.
Hi to Alfred. We haven't talked in a while. We should catch up.
Oh, okay. There's someone already posted
Great
the link.
comment. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other? Let me.
Yeah,
Thanks.
you're welcome.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Yeah, I must add to that. I want to add to that. Really, SDV Coffee Talk is just incredible format, super pleasant for us being here, and of course for sharing all these opinions. And I love watching other episodes where I'm not present as well. And Fatih, really, and Florian and Morris, really, huge thanks to you for creation of that.
Yeah, just as an information, Moritz has his heads in the clouds right now. So
exactly. I mean, we talked with him today. He was in Hong Kong and he was going to the plane. I think he's in the plane at the moment. Yeah, many greetings from here. And probably a couple of impressions from my side. I mean, I received a lot of good feedback actually from the SDV Europe participants about. I mean, everybody was asking about the SDV Coffee Talk, how they contribute, how they can be a guest, and was really impressive. I mean, I didn't know that this is so famous actually, but this was also one of my takeaways from the conference. Very nice.
I think I had another great situation similar to yours. I was at the Formula One race here in Las Vegas, and I was just chatting with a friend, and somebody tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, are you Florian?" And it's like a total random person is like, "Hey, I know you from that LinkedIn stuff, and just wanted to say hi." So that's really cool.
Cool.
Let me get us back on the track real quick, because one thing is also happening really, really fast is the whole AI thing, right? So we talked about that already briefly. So it's this one. Actually, I was sitting down and with my parents at one point, and just like, it's not one AI. You have to understand there's not like one, super lord AI. There's a lot of different things. So what we see like really starting to be super successful is AI in the area of test creation, test data analysis, field data analysis, all this kind of stuff, which is super cool. And I think going back to 2025, I think if you are not running all that stuff in your company in the area of software development, you totally missed the ship already. And then the next thing is, as Sergey brought it up, Edge AI. And Edge AI, I just throw in a couple of thoughts here. It's kind of like a validation nightmare with our current validation strategies, right? Because I cannot validate Edge AI that is self-learning in the car. So I actually have to change my complete mindset of validating something. Similar to, when you give a human a driving license, you also don't validate that they can handle each and every situation. You just validate their basic understanding. But our validation strategies have to change completely for Edge AI.
But I think, we had also a workshop in the conference. It was all about autonomous driving and how you can ensure safety, actually, deploying AI in the car. It was so interesting. I was just listening. I could not contribute so much to the topic, but there was a couple of experts there, and it was really interesting. And I still cannot really... I'm not sure how you can do this in a way that you have some kind of a control about the AI system, because the output is not deterministic.
Exactly. So you basically have to put some sort of ongoing validation into your system.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
Watchdog, but a little more sophisticated.
It's more about statistics, just like our world operates. There is no guarantee that every single person will survive. I mean, in general, there are situations happening, but at the level of population, it's still fine. So I think something similar has to be applied around this more smart and absolutely uncontrollable ways of learning new things. And in the end, we are operating not with some discrete states which you can cover with a list of specific tasks. You're operating with kind of literally unlimited amount of states. Kind of practically unlimited. In theory, they're still limited, but in any case, you're operating, especially with the autonomous driving domain, with a level of particles which you sense, and you never know which combination of particles will be sensed by a sensor and how it's going to be analyzed. But what Florian mentioned is actually a very right way to think about it. You cannot test all single situations, but you can see the patterns. You can see certain groups of situations and make sure that they are correctly interpreted. And then what you do in parallel, you just statistically increase amount of testing you're applying to make sure that all corner cases are working correctly. And actually, there is a concept which is quite known, and we have some special name for it, which is the virtual proving ground. So basically, whatever you can test in the accelerated mode somewhere in the virtual mode, go there and do testing. And this is how you can actually increase the chances that whatever is then released to the real world is even more tested and past more statistical situations.
So there's
but there is
actually,
also
Scotty, one second. So there's actually
okay.
3 steps. Maybe I should create one of those famous Dr. Moritz pictures of that. The 3 levels of Edge AI. So the first step is where we are right now. So you train your model in-house, and then you put it onto your product, validate it before you validate it, then you put it on your product, and it acts on that. Then the third level is where the product actually starts to learn on the edge. So it learns and improves. But there's a step in between where the product actually learns something without applying it, and then sends that back home, and you implement that, and then you validate it, and then you set it out. That's the first step, which we will see. So things will be learned in the real world, which will be fantastic from validation purpose point of view, because you get all those corner cases and all those things. You learn it in the real world, you send it back to the headquarters, you validate the implementation, and then you spread it out in a swarm. The third, I think we still have a few years out until we have the edge learning and applying changes, because then every car will be different. Every car will have different software on it, and that is what I'm talking about, a validation nightmare. Let's work on step 2 first before we, get a headache of step 3.
But there was one. There was one idea in which was presented by MHP actually in the I think the first day, having some kind of a smart infrastructure. I mean, smart traffic lights, smart traffic signs that the car can actually interact with the infrastructure. It would make it more easier to deal with the situation actually. But I mean, the idea is really great. But I'm not pretty sure how much it can be really put on the street, because it's a very expensive solution, actually.
So two thoughts, because I have a friend who is working on a green wave thing for emergency vehicles. Okay. And I asked him the same thing. And he said, in Las Vegas, where I live, it's like 98% of the traffic lights are already online. People just don't know about it. Yes, exactly. So they're all online for traffic supervision, not for this kind of purpose, but they're all online.
Okay.
My second thought here is like, this can also be a cybersecurity nightmare, because if the cars are easily convinced that this is a stop sign, I would just put one of those stop signs in front of my house to make the cars go slower.
Okay. This could be hacking the infrastructure.
Absolutely, because I think. So we put a lot of effort in securing our cars, but as soon as we come up with V2X, this is what you just brought up, I think it would be much easier to hack the infrastructure and therefore create a malicious attack, like a passive attack into the car.
I mean, this is really a concern. I mean, definitely.
Yeah.
Seriously, yes.
If we put one more perspective into that, because I normally compare the things between real nature and technology, and we as human beings, we can drive without it, right? So it means that technology at some point, especially when it can learn, etc., it can do without infrastructure as well. And given this factor which you mentioned, Fatih, it's a huge cost which you need to add into the entire infrastructure. If you didn't do that before, it will be just major upgrade costing billions, I guess, for a city. So maybe it's like the better way is to rely that technology can do that. Like, yes, it's challenging, it's not easy, but it's definitely achievable in general, since we as humans can do that.
Yeah. By the way, I just want to say, Fadi, we have a bunch of comments, which is great. Keep on coming. So let's switch over and work through the comments.
With SDV is still developing, a great time for start. Of course, SDV is the future, in my opinion. I mean, you should definitely start if you didn't do it until now, I would say.
Just about that question, because I get that from time to time, more in detail. People would like, especially people who are students in the universities, they'd like to get some more detail on that. And I think it's great, and I'm always open. If somebody wants to have a conversation, just reach out to me. I'm happy to mentor somebody who's in that phase. I tell the people usually first thing is throw away your mouse and delete Windows from your computer, and change over to one of those specially tuned keyboards with a special click sound, and only use command line adapters. Because from here on in a career in SDV, you will not talk to the car in any other way. You will send SSH commands through a command line, and this is how you deal with the cars from here on. So if you don't run Linux yet on your private laptop, it's time to do that.
Linux, yeah. I'm completely for Linux.
And by the way, I'm not really that good in that, but I'm running Linux for a while, and ChatGPT makes it so much easier to run Linux because it actually helps you with all those commands, and you can learn out of that. But yes, absolutely. All right.
May I add one more thing?
Yes, go ahead.
The SDV definitely, like, it's happening right now. It's no longer like the future. It's the present, and of course, it's going to be the future. But at the same time, SDV itself is just a part of the picture. The way we see the world is that it's SDV plus optimization and automation, which means a lot of AI plus digital twin as the way to describe the thing. So try to keep them together. That is possibly the more, let's say, strategic way to think about it, because whatever is the software, it's going to be AI or somehow related to AI or connected or replaced by AI, whatever you put it there. So these things are super connected. So yeah, consider SDV, AI, and digital twin are equally important topics if you really want to focus on that.
Yeah, and it's actually, I had that in a note before the meeting. So SDV is not only on the car, right? So there's a lot that has to happen off the car to make it work, right? But I'd like to jump on Alfred's question here really quick. And I fully agree. It's huge. So R155, 156. I mean, it took the Porsche Macan off the market, which is the most successful car they're making, right? So that shows you the impact, what you have there. What I see is that this year, actually, people they woke up. They understand the impact of that, and they work on that. Last year, not that much yet. So, but this year, I think 155, 156 was present on all conferences, on all talks, on everybody's list.
Probably you can just give a short. I'm not sure if everybody knows what.
Okay. Yeah. So these are the two amendments to WP29, which is the regulation UNECE for cars that hit the market in Europe. And it's about cybersecurity management system and software update management system. So in very short words, it says like your product has to have a managed cybersecurity, and it has to have a managed software update system. The software update system, which is a SUMS, actually is interesting. It's basically a blueprint of what we implemented at Tesla in 2012. It works, so why not, right? And then, so both of those were made mandatory for type approval in 2024 for existing cars. So there's no grandfathered anymore. So this is why Porsche had to stop the production of the Macan, and I think the Cayman as well, and the Boxster, because they're not cyber secure. And they said it's too much effort to get them secured. So they run without those cars for a year until the successors come out in 2025.
Okay, cool. There's another. Sergey, you wanted to add something or to the previous one?
Okay. You can take
there's
this
a question. Michael's asked about the API for SDV apps, actually.
Fatih, I think you can go with that, or I can add as well.
There are a couple of, I think, industries initiatives actually trying to define some kind of a common API. Covesa have this. I cannot remember. There's VSS. I think this vehicle signal specification or something like that. This is some kind of a standardization of the SDV API. This is the thing what come into my mind actually when I think about. I don't know, Sergey, if you have something else. But
I just want to add one sentence here, and I might have mentioned that in the last talk. Most people don't know that in agriculture, this is actually for a long time it's standardized. So you can put a John Deere machine on a whatever Fendt tractor and it will work. So that on that level, it's a standard API. API is probably too much of a word there, but it's a standard protocol between farming equipment. Very interesting. I didn't know either before I went to the agriculture show this year.
Yeah, just to add to that, Michael, absolutely, it is going to happen, and the question of APIs is critically important and equally recognized by all traditional automakers today. And there's a lot of efforts happening around Covesa and Sophie. So it's really happening. At the same time, when we discuss this world where you can contribute to the same system by different companies, different contributors. You really have to manage your interfaces. This is the only way how you really can work more or less independently at the same time. And yes, the topic of APIs is finally arriving to the vehicles at the level where it needs to be standardized across all the ecosystem. So we'll see a lot of right changes and real actions in the industry in the next few years.
Yeah, but
No,
we
I
also
think
have
this-
to be careful not to get a committee fatigue, right? This is also a little bit of a
Yeah,
feedback I
yeah.
got in the last events. It's like, oh, great, there is just another group and another group and another group, and they have meetings and meetings and meetings, and in the end, it takes forever. So that is counterproductive, right? It still has to be efficient and quick. I think this.
I think this is more comment to
follows up on
Prasant's
that,
comment to on the Michael. Prasant, nice to
Hi,
see you
Prasant.
here. I mean, it was great to meet you yesterday.
He was in Frankfurt too. So
Really? Okay. We had a very nice lunch talk actually with Prasant. Yeah. John is asking here. Okay, VDA. What is VDA?
Verein Deutsche Automobilingenieure.
Okay, this is VDA. Okay, yeah, okay,
Yeah,
the
VDA.
German. Okay. I was a little bit. Yeah. Okay.
That's a long question.
Okay. For a special interest group or working group that can.
I think the whole question is around the software development lifecycle standardization.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That's how I read it. And I think that's actually a good idea in general. At the same time, I don't think that it's where you can commonize everything, because there are certain different companies
For sure.
doing different ways, and it needs to have some freedom. At the same time, yes, some commonality might be a good idea. And yeah, well.
And just a thought on that. So we, as iProcess, we're actually part of the Intax board who is working on the ASPICE standard, and we are working on the next generation. So we just released 4.0, and we integrated LLMs in there, and we integrated hardware engineering in there, which is kind of funny because ASPICE, the S stands for software, but it has hardware now too. So there's a lot of stuff happening there. If anybody has input, or please reach out. We really want to keep all this stuff working on the edge, cutting edge, and not in the past.
I mean, there is this question from Michael actually. I mean, this is a follow up.
I think they're chatting now with each other.
Yeah. I mean, which companies are adopting it? I mean, I think adopting at the moment. I'm not really sure if anyone is using a VSS, for example, from Covesa. I have no idea actually. If there are any. But what I learned in the conferences, I mean, there were a chairman of AutoSAR there, and I mean, I thought AutoSAR is actually outdated, but they do a lot of things actually. I mean, recently it was SDV and so on. I mean, they adapting AutoSAR to SDV and defining many things, and there are so many initiatives actually. I was so surprised about that. I mean, happy to see all these initiatives actually, also from the AutoSAR stuff.
But this is an interesting point. You see, even the standards, they have to change, and they have to
adapt.
They have to follow changes, right?
And
so it's not like back in the day you write a standard and that's the gold standard, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, even let me just check.
Yeah, I think
okay, they're chatting now. Okay, I think these was more or less the comments. I mean, we just 5 minutes left. Any closing words of the year? I mean,
crazy year it was,
go ahead, yeah.
Good and different ways for everybody. And what we see is that the world of today is not the same as the world of yesterday. The world of tomorrow is going to be possibly even more different from the world of today.
More crazy, I guess more crazy.
I mean, we don't know, and whatever is happening is going to be different. Okay, so it's changes. Whatever you put there, it's changes. So I think the key word for that is ability to adapt, and the pace of change, of ability to really adapt and embrace the change. And this is a very cultural thing. So you need to really be ready for that. You need to embrace the change and embrace the kind of, you need to be happy about it. So you don't feel you cannot always feel kind of bad about it. So I think if you ask me, what is the key word and what we need to take away from this year, and take it to the next year, is this readiness for changes, and not being static with what we used to do before, because most likely all super great and brilliant things we invented kind of many years ago, or even a couple of years ago, are not going to work the same way in the next few years from now.
Yeah, I love that statement, and I want to add is like, everybody stop efforts to reduce change. Just start to embrace change and opportunity by working, may I say, agile.
Great statement.
Everybody stop reducing change. It's not gonna happen. If you try to do less change, the rest of the world, as Sergey said, will change around you, and then you lose track.
Exactly.
This is a great statement, actually. Yeah, I mean, from my side also, I can just I have nothing to add, actually, to what you guys said. For me, this year were quite interesting, because the start of these conversations about SDV and so on is great. It was a great year for me. I mean, I met you guys. I mean, this is the best thing what happened to me, actually, this year. And all these conversations we have, and discussions, and also with all people asking questions. So this was really great. I hope we can continue this next year with great conversations.
Let's synchronize on at least one event where we all are present.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Moritz also. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Because I met Moritz in Ann Arbor. I met Sergey in Frankfurt, and Fatih. I haven't met you in my life.
Okay. But do you come? I don't know. Next year to Germany, we can organize.
I will do one. I will do for sure one event in Germany. Let's just synchronize that we all go to the same.
Okay.
Cool. Are you proposing one of the coffee talks where we are all together with one camera?
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
Exactly.
No. Absolutely.
In the same room.
I love that. So let's do that. Cool. Let's just synchronize which one we're picking, because it seems that we all had some really good events. And trust me, I did 18, and it's not possible to go to all of them. 18 is already very exhausting.
I mean, this is more than one conference every month. I mean,
yes, that's right.
Yes. Yeah.
So I will organize my time a little wiser next year.
Okay.
I didn't plan on that many, but some of them just popped up on short notice. So, and not everything was a conference. Some of them were also more like small group meetings, which was really cool, by invitation only small group meetings, which are really awesome, but they usually come with a week notice. So.
Okay. Cool. And let's close the session, I would say. I wish you a pleasant time. I mean, the rest time of the year.
Merry Christmas and to all a good night.
Exactly. And let's meet next year.
Let's see you.
Absolutely,
Bye,
guys.
Everybody.
Bye.
Bye.